It's game week for the Unity Lions, which means it's time to talk all things Lions football with head coach David Humphreys, presented by Unity Christian School. Now here's WLAQ Sports' Matt Davis and Coach Humphreys.
All right, welcome in. It is time to talk all things Unity Lions football with the head coach, David Humphreys, who's in the studio with us today. And, Coach, first of all, how you doing today, sir?
Well, Matt, I'm doing great, man. It seems like we were just here, but there's been a football season in between our last two meetings, right?
I know. We need to make this happen more often, man. I always enjoy talking to you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today because y'all have had a super successful season. So we'll just go ahead and launch into the first question. But speaking of a successful season, you guys have had an unblemished record for the regular season, 10-0. There have only been 46 points, less than 5 points a game scored against your team this year. Mm-hmm. You guys are averaging just over 47 points a game. And so the first question is, Coach, at what point of the season this year did you realize that you had something special brewing with this squad?
Well, Matt, we knew that the first game of the year against Lafayette Christian, that we felt like they may be our toughest opponent. And we came out and was successful against them and beat them 22-0 at home in our first game. And our defense played a little bit better than maybe what we suspected since we changed a few things. Not saying that was the point in which we thought that we were going to be okay, but just the work ethic that the guys put in, probably mid-season, we realized that, that we were going to be our biggest enemy if there was going to be an enemy. And so we made sure that we just focused on ourselves. And, man, the kids have done a great job with that.
Well, Coach, speaking of the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to talk in more detail about your personnel and stuff like that a little bit later on in the show. But, I've talked to you about nine-man football, multiple times. And when people talk nine-man football, the conversation doesn't typically revolve around defense. It's usually talking about scoring lots of points and that sort of thing. Yeah. But anytime that we've talked about Unity on our pick show and stuff like that this year, we're always talking about that defense.
Sure.
So what would you say has contributed? You mentioned some adjustments and things like that, but the success that you guys had on that side of the ball, what's the emphasis been?
Well, I've always been one that's always believed that you should be a very offensive defense, meaning that we press. We're not sitting back reacting to what the offense does. We call our plays and we let them roll. The good thing about it is our kids have really bought into the whole idea of we tackle each and every day. A lot of people get scared of injury. I never want anybody to be hurt, but we never back off of that. If we're in full pads, we're going to tackle live, and they're going to be hit and they're going to hit. And because of nine-man ball and because of missed tackles and things of that nature, missed tackles end up being either first downs or touchdowns. And so we felt like we've done a great job. I think the other thing to that, too, is that like right now, Matt, we are plus 20 in the turnover margin. Wow. So, and actually we had 2 turnovers in our last game. So up until that point, we were like plus, 22. And I just attribute that to our guys, really running to the football, getting there with a really bad attitude and trying to be physical and trying to separate the ball from the man.
Well, I know one of the things that we talked about in our preseason interview with the Coaches Preview show that we did with you, Coach, was the fact that you're going to be breaking in a new quarterback after having the same starter for a few years who was very successful. Right. And so this year you start a sophomore quarterback in the name of Miles Schwartz. And it seems like he's done an excellent job. So what was that process like, getting him ready to go and getting him in top form this year?
Well, obviously very nervous. I think I alluded to that in our preseason show because you don't know until they get in the middle of the battle. And I remember walking up to Miles, I think the first game, and just told him, I said, "This is not your game to win. Just get the ball to the guys who will win the game for you." And I can say that he has done that just to the best of his ability. He has distributed the ball around. We've really turned into a vertical passing game, and so our percentages are probably a little bit lower than what you would normally want, 55, 56%, but yards per completion are off the chart, and because we're throwing the ball down the field. And I'm telling you, I've coached a long time, and he's got one of the best releases as far as a pure thrower that I've ever coached. So been very pleased with him. He is not one that gets rattled in the middle of a game. Even whenever, probably over the last 3 games, we've allowed him to carry the ball more. I was protecting him early in the season because I just didn't know how he was going to respond. And the guy's asking me for the ball, And that's always a fun thing whenever, you got your play caller that's really not shaking. Even whenever something does not go quite right, he just shakes it off and goes on about his business.
Well, and on that note, obviously when you've got a young quarterback like that, he's relying on some of the older guys around him to kind of help him, move forward and that sort of thing and be a support to him. So how would you say the team's rallied behind him and that sort of thing?
Awesome. And, I'm remembering back to that first game, and I remember walking up to Elliott Whiteside, who is the center. And I said, look, man, you got to protect him tonight. Don't let him get in his head in the game, whatever it may be. Andreo Sawyer, who has just been phenomenal at receiver, who's a senior, has played with us now really for 4 years, but started really hard for 2. He has been just a very calming source there. They're all really good friends. Davis Blankenship, there's another lineman. I mean, all 3 linemen are seniors. So whenever he gets in the huddle, he's not by himself. And I think those guys have done a great job of letting him, relax. And then the flip side we've already talked about is that when you have a defense that's been as stingy as ours, you realize that not every play the game banks on.
Right. Takes a lot of the pressure off.
A lot of the pressure.
Well, obviously, football is one of those things that people that follow sports, you realize is the ultimate team sport.
Sure.
And so when you've got guys stepping up and supporting each other and being leaders and things like that, you mentioned some guys that we've had out at the radio station before and talked to how mature those guys are. How does that make you feel as a coach and a coaching staff that those guys are showing that, ability to be great teammates and leaders?
Well, first of all, I think that, I have a saying, especially we usually say around the first quarter, something like that. And I'll always ask them, how do their eyes look, meaning our opponents? Mm-hmm. And because, I always point out to them, this is exactly where we want to be. We don't want to be no place else other in this huddle together. And whenever I see those guys looking back at me, I know that it means a whole lot to them. They call me out if they think that I'm getting soft or easy at practice, and so it's been a great blessing to be around a group like that because it means so much to them, and they hold each other accountable. I have a couple of sayings. First, never let one cost you 2. We got to get over the play. We can't worry about the last one, and don't shoot your wounded. And I think that's very important in our sport is that it's very easy to point blame or whatever when something don't go right. And I can say this, that our guys do not do that, and I'm so proud of that. And I think that creates an atmosphere within your team to where they realize that there is a next play, and so we're going to play the next play.
Now, I got to ask you this, Coach, but, you referenced players calling you out for being too soft and not hard enough on them and that sort of thing. And I know that in some of the conversations we've had, you've referenced Old Testament and stuff like that.
Sure.
How does Coach respond to that?
Well, I usually laugh. It's actually, I hate to say this, but there's a sense of pride because you feel like, okay, they get it. They realize that the only way that we're going to get to places we want to get to is by not taking shortcuts, but by working extremely hard. They know that with me, there's no excuses. I don't care what it is. There's no excuses. And, we're going to look for reasons to be successful. I told them the other night at one of our games, I said, look, you're either the hunter or the prey, and we're the hunters. We'll never be the prey. There's no victim mentality on our field. We're not going to allow it. And I think our kids have really bought into that. So if they feel like there's any sense that I'm not, I walked up to Davis the other day and was joking around with him. He looked at me and goes, "What's wrong with you? Why are you laughing? Why are you grinning?" And so I just kind of had to chuckle at that, but the guys get it. And, hey, it's been a process. It's my 5th year there, and it's been a whole lot of fun watching this group really grow. But there's been confidence in them really since day one, and it's just because of what they've done in the past.
Well, Coach, one more question in this segment, and then we're going to take our first break. But I know one of the challenges that you had last year was continuity in terms of the flow of the season because you had teams that couldn't play games, opponents and things of that nature, and you had several weeks at a time where you wouldn't have a game, so you were having to get creative in terms of how to schedule competitive events outside of football. I think I went bowling one time.
We sure did,
And this year you really hadn't had to do that.
That's
so
right.
How's that helped the flow?
Well, there's just a different attitude. Last year, what you're referencing, we went through really a period of nearly 5 weeks without a game. And I remember, one of my coaches come up to me and said, "Coach, we got to do something. We got to do something. These kids, mentally, it's just not good." And we've not had to do that this year. everybody knows that the next week what we've got going on, and we're not waiting for any phone calls or anything like that. And so, yeah, that's been a huge part. Just, we're creatures of habit, at least I am. And I want Mondays to be Mondays and Tuesdays to be Tuesdays and Wednesday. I don't like to see change. And I've always said that, a sign of a great coach or a good coach is one, if I'm not there, that everything should be running just perfectly without me there, because they understand what is expected of them. And I feel like our guys could do. I know Elliot Whiteside could run practice in a heartbeat and hit everything that we do. But I know there's others. I keep using him, but he's just been such a solid position for me over the last, really 4 years.
Well, we've got Coach David Humphreys with us, head coach of the Unity Christian School Lions, and they are getting ready for a semifinal matchup on Friday at Coosa High School against Harvester Chritian Academy, the Hawks, and we're going to talk more about them in detail later on in the show. But when we come back after our first break, we're going to talk more in depth about your coaching staff, your personnel as far as your team, and those sorts of things. But we're talking all things Unity Lions football here on the Unity Lions Football Coaches Show with head coach David Humphreys. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Michelle Roll, and I'm the Director of Admissions for Unity Christian School. I want to introduce you to the new Georgia Promise Scholarship. The Georgia Promise Scholarship is a new scholarship offered by the state of Georgia for families who live within the attendance zone of a low-performing school. The purpose of this scholarship is for families to enroll their children in exceptional educational programs through non-public schooling of their choice. Unity Christian School is one of those private schools that have been approved to offer this scholarship. It has been wonderful to see so many families who have wanted a Christian education for their children that they now have the opportunity to enroll here at UCS. If your child is currently attending public school or entering kindergarten for the first time, and you live within one of the approved attendance zones of a low-performing school by the state of Georgia, I encourage you to apply for the Georgia Promise Scholarship at mygeorgiapromise.org. And your child could receive a scholarship of up to $6,500 to go towards school tuition every year until they graduate from high school. This is a wonderful opportunity that is allowing families to finally have the freedom to choose which school their child attends. A private Christian education may now be within your reach. Please visit their website today and see if you qualify for the Georgia Promise Scholarship.
All right, we welcome you back here to the Unity Lions Football Coaches Show with head coach David Humphreys with us today. And, Coach, we're just going to go jump back into our questions. And I wanted to spend this segment kind of breaking down your personnel, so I thought we'd start with your staff. Let's talk about your coaching staff this year. Who are the guys that are helping you?
Yeah, sure. Well, Phil Wood, he's the assistant head coach. He's come back. He was with me my first year, and then he went off as a principal. And Phil and I have coached a lot through our Rome years together and things of that nature, been friends. And he's kind of co-offensive coordinator. He coaches the quarterbacks, so he gets to coach Miles and helps out with the wide receivers. Jeff Giddens is a guy that's been with me for 5, and he coaches the DBs and the receivers. He just does a great job. His son is Isaiah, who is playing for us, a junior. And Jeff is just one that he also kind of handles all our special teams. And so that's a huge help as far as that goes. Mark Ellison is kind of new to the staff. It's kind of funny. Mark played football at Arkansas Tech, where I played, but he came about 10 or 12 years after me. But he's come in as the spiritual life director at Unity, and he coaches offensive line and defensive line for us. Been a big help coming in this year, and we're excited about having him. Barry Alford is another one that's been there for the 5 years. He helps with the weight room. He's really one of the unsung heroes of the staff just because of how much time he puts in. He owns Service Master, and he breaks away and comes and lifts the kids. And you know how strong we've gotten over this off season is really due to him and his diligence. It was phenomenal, the type of gains that we made on our team with Barry, and he helps with our inside linebackers and running back position. Nate King is another one that's been there. His son is Brady. The neat thing about Nate is Nate will have our opponents broken down by Saturday night. He'll be sending me text with all the drawings and everything, which really takes a load off of me, since I'm calling both offense and defense right now. But Nate's one of those. I kind of make him kind of a co-defensive coordinator. So he really helps me get everything prepared. But he coaches our outside backers on defense, and is another guy that I'll give him usually 5 or 6 plays on the course of a night, and it's his responsibility to make sure I call them. so he has a list of the special plays that we've done, and then Dan Farron, his son Lincoln, just came to us and is playing tight end and outside backer. Dan played at Liberty. He was a receiver at Liberty.
Really? And
has just been phenomenal. Dan he travels a bunch, so he's not with us every day. But man, I tell you what he has done for us, and just with the enthusiasm and intensity, and he shows up. His old receiver skills come out. He's got his own gloves. He goes out there and catches with the boys and all that stuff. So Dan just does a great job. And then, Sean Burrow, who's our trainer, just does a great job keeping our guys on the field. The great thing I love about Sean is that he just tells me the truth. He's no witch doctor. He'll tell you if a kid can go and if he can't go. And, like I said, I'm an old school guy, and I realize that, football is you deal with pain, and the pain's not a reason not to play. And so Sean, he and I are kind of from the same cloth as far as that goes. And then, of course, obviously Russ Dyer. Russ is our AD, but he's also the middle school head coach, and just does a great job and with that, and just somebody who Unity sports, but Unity football means a whole lot to him, and he pours into these kids day in and day out.
Well, Coach, one of the things as you're describing your staff, obviously it feels like it's one of those things that's been growing over the years, and you've got some guys that have been there for a while, some new faces, that kind of thing. But one of the things we were talking about during the break, and, if you're watching this on Facebook Live and YouTube, you saw a video there that was describing the baseball team and how they're going to be playing at Advent Health Stadium where Rome Emperors play.
Right.
Feels like there's a lot of growth taking place in the athletic department in general.
Yeah, and I have to tip my hat to Russ because of that, because, whenever 5 years ago, whenever we sat down and talked about, me coming and helping at Unity and everything, and I think one of the questions he asked me was, what's it going to take? And I said, money and people. And whenever you look at athletics, that's the whole idea behind it. And he has taken that to heart. The guy works just tirelessly trying to make the experience. I think that's the other thing I told him too, is that, we have to make the experience playing at Unity special. Whether it be, through what we're doing here with social media, or whether it's the swag that we give the kids, or the way they look, or, our uniforms, just the gear that they wear has to be second to none. And he's done a great job of finding the resources for us to do that. One of the funny things is that we have got this inflatable lion that we carry to all of our games, and some of our opponents have not appreciated us bringing our lion, but it's also turned in to our locker room at halftime. So instead of going down and finding a locker room, we just all go get underneath the line, and but it's I know the kids see that and they know it's special, and it makes it a whole lot of fun. Yeah.
Do you mind me asking you who's responsible for the lion each week? Because that's a special person, right?
Yeah, it's Russ.
Okay,
Russ, I think Drew Blankenship as well does it as well. But I tell you what, them jokers, they carry it, and inflate that joker. And I know I got chewed out a couple weeks ago because we were driving a truck in behind carrying everything and didn't get the can of gas for the generator. So the line just couldn't quite inflate. So, anyhow.
It'll make a great chapter for a book.
Oh, yeah,
someday,
yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, good deal, man. Well, we talked about your coaching staff, the other things. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we talked pretty in depth about your quarterback, but
sure.
Let's talk about some of your offensive
Well,
guys.
I think it all starts with the offensive line. Elliott Whiteside, who's been really, 4-year starter for us at center. Davis Blankenship is a guard that missed the first part of the season, but has been back with us now for over a month. Landon Groover, who was really his first year really playing with us and has done a great job. All three of those guys, I think we mentioned it early that, that quarterback has got 3 seniors in front of him. And so in the huddle or on the field, he's got someplace he can go. And, of course, we feel like we have some of the best receivers around. Andreo Sawyer, who has just had an unbelievable year and is a kid that is really special. He can play at the next level for sure, and he's getting some attention around. And he's made 2 or 3 catches this year that are just second to none. I was sharing with you that I think he's had 12 touchdowns called back, and to penalty, whether it be punts or whatever. But the guy can be very electric, and his knowledge of the game, and we'll talk about it on the other side of the ball, has just, I can't tell you how it's exploded, him understanding what's going on around him. So he's fun. Isaiah Giddens is a kid that plays a lot of positions for us, but he has been very impactful, and he's one of our inside slots. And then we got Brady King. He's another inside slot. And so for us, our 2 inside slots are really our running backs for the most part. And then Tyler Ford, who's just had an unreal year. I was sitting here looking at him, and his rushing stats. Tyler, he's averaging about 17 yards a carry.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you look at our stats by themselves for the year for 10 games, nothing's impressive. But what you have to look at is per play. And I know. I think last week, I'm shooting off the top of my head, but when we played Pinecrest, that was the team that beat us in the state championship last year, I want to say he had maybe like 9 carries for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. I can't remember, but he can be very electric. And the way that he's running the ball now, he never ran it that way last year. He's run it this year, and it's made a huge difference for us. And then we have Cooper Mathis, who is kind of our running back position, which is really a glorified guard, but he can run the ball. But boy, has he made a difference to us because he protects Miles in the passing game. And then he's one of the lead blockers in everything that we do. And he's also pulling double duty. And so, those guys are just something to, whenever I think about, we're a matchup nightmare. Oh, and I forgot our tight end, Bo Madsen. Bo's a 6'5" ninth grader. And I was telling you earlier, I think Bo's got 12 catches for 10 touchdowns. And he's averaging about 40 yards of completion. And obviously he's a vertical guy. He dropped one the other night. We overthrew him one the other night. But because of our game and our tight end is so important to us. And so to defend the tight end really puts you at a disadvantage defensively. It's just a tough place because you have to defend the outside run and the vertical release. And so as soon as we can get them protecting the outside, we go vertical on them. And so Bo's been the person that's done that for us.
Well, Coach, in our first segment of the show, we talked about that defense that's given up just 46 points over the course of 10 games. Yeah. And I say that out loud, and I'm like, is that correct? But it is. But I don't know if they keep record books, or whatever, but that's got to be some kind of record.
Yeah, we're excited about that, and I want to tell you, our guys get very stingy in a hurry. Matter of fact, we had a shutout going and gave one up at the last play of the game, and so I got to shout them out for you. Anytime we have a shutout, I get the guys donuts.
Okay. All
right, and so Krispy Kreme has come in there for us, and them jokers are making me go get them. Anytime we pitch a shutout, but I tell you, they just play very alive, and they believe in what we're doing. We run to the ball, we tackle a bunch, we tackle a whole bunch. and to them, it's a sense of pride for them, and it reminds me back some of the other places I've been. It takes so much pressure off of you from an offensive play caller when you know that your defense has got your back. And I tell them, I said, look, man, we're going to be aggressive. I'd rather them scoring one play than an 8, because we'll get the ball back and we'll go do what we do. But I just know what our guys are the price they're paying each, and how selfishly they play, because in our defense is a movement defense, and so there's times in which you're kind of the bait. You're not always the person getting to make the tackles, but your job is just as important as the other. So, you want to go ahead and talk?
Absolutely. Okay. Let's talk about your dudes.
So I think the first two that we have to talk, obviously, is Elliott, who is kind of our strong tackle, and then a guy by the name of Joel Sims. Joel Sims actually was playing both sides of the ball, doing a phenomenal job whenever Davis was out the first 5 or 6 games. So Joel was playing every snap. Joel could still be playing on the offensive side of the ball, but because we have a little bit of depth there, he's playing just on defense. He's got an unbelievable motor.
Isn't it great to be able to say the word depth?
Oh, yeah. I remember my first year when they had 4 linemen on the entire team, and now when you look at our roster, the majority of them are linemen. But Joel Sims is a kid that just actually has an unbelievable motor, and they make things happen up front. And then we have 2 outside line. Actually, they have 3, but Blake Hall kind of comes off the weak side. He's had a bunch of tackle for losses and things of that nature. He's a kid that plays very, very physical. And then we have Bo Madsen, who plays our Sam backer, who lines up if you have a tight end or something like that. He'll be on that side of the ball. And then we have those 2 inside linebackers. I think I was looking at the stats, and I want to say that William Wilson's got, I think he's got 100 tackles. Now that's assists and solos. And then Cooper Mathis, who's the wheel linebacker, is probably at 85 or 88. I mean, these guys are making plays all over the field. And both of them combined does not make me. I mean, they're about 150 pounds, 155, but they will run right through the middle of you. And those guys, they take great pride in just making the tackle. I don't just make the tackle. We're not worried about if it's for a 1-yard gain or a 1-yard loss. Just make the tackle. And they do that. And then we have our corners who have just been lights out. Brady King, who plays one corner, and then got Isaiah Giddens on the other. They're very smart. I give them a lot of leeway. They're in man coverage most of the time. But they have a tendency to prowl around and stuff. Matter of fact, Brady the other night in the game, unbeknownst to me, had his own call, and they had a tight end on the backside, and the tight end blocked, and he decided to blitz. And I'm like, and he goes, well, I just saw it, and I thought it was a good idea. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to run that by me first. But Isaiah, just has made some huge plays. And then the guy in the middle, we call the Lion, and that's Dreo Sawyer. And Dreo is the guy that is really – he checks our defenses and puts them where we need to be, especially in the secondary with all the formations, especially what we're going to face tomorrow night, a lot of formations. So he has to know what's going on. He has to know who's eligible, who's ineligible, because, in our game, numbers don't matter. It's covered, uncovered. So because people haven't played both sides of the ball, you can look up 59 could be running down the middle of the field. The number does not matter. So we have to identify that. And so those are all guys that do that. Another guy who's really came on and really helped us out is Tyler Ford. Tyler has learned to play defense a whole lot better. He's a backup Sam linebacker as well. So those are the guys that make up the defense, and I tell you what, they get very insulted when you take them off the field. They nearly to the rebellious stage because they don't want to come off, because they don't want to give up, any yards or points.
Wow, man. Well, we've got one more phase of the game that we need to talk about before we take our next break. In our final segment, we're going to talk about your opponent coming up, which you're familiar with. You played them already this season. But let's talk about your special teams, Coach. What does that look like in terms of 9-man football, and who are your guys that you count on there?
Yeah, well, special teams is a little different. Isaiah Giddens is now a junior, and his leg is getting stronger, and so he is now starting to get us some touchbacks on kickoffs. But the problem with that is that if not, then you got to cover with 9 men on that field. And Matter of fact, this Harvester team we're getting ready to play returned the opening kickoff on us for a touchdown. One guy stepped out of his lane, the kid was gone, and so we have a tendency to be very disruptive with our kicking game. We kick the ball all over the place. We don't just kick it deep. We do that just so nobody can get a bead on us. Punting wise, we haven't punted a whole lot. I think we had one punt the other night. We went a couple of games without punts. Which is scary because when we lined up in it, we were in illegal formation. Nobody was on the line of scrimmage. All of my guys were illegal, other than the snapper. And so we spent this last 2 weeks working on punt, making sure that we were lined up right. Punt return has been kind of a goat roping, to be honest with you. My guys have a nasty habit of just wanting to run into the punter, and so we're getting ready to kind of put a bit in their mouth on that a little bit. But they're just trying to get to the ball, but they're out of control, and even though we didn't get flags the other night, man, it was close. And with the returns, Dreo's had several touchdowns on the year from punt returns, but a lot of times, in our game, because you're not punting so much, punts are sporadic. They're all over the place. And so if you can't field it, we just get away from it and we just get the ball. So that's that. And, kickoff return the same way. People are going to onside kick it. Tomorrow night we're going to face pretty much onside kicks most of the time or sky kicks. And people do that just so they don't have to cover, whenever you're looking and you've got maybe, 20 guys on your team, you're running them down on a 70-yard sprint to start a series. That can be tough on you. So especially if you just had a long series. So you have to think about what you're going to do special teams wise, especially if you need to take care of your kids as far as their conditioning.
Well, we've got Coach David Humphreys with us, the head coach of the Unity Lions, and time is moving fast, so we better take another break because we've got one more segment coming up. In the next segment, we're turning our attention to the semifinal game against Harvester Chritian Academy Hawks. So we'll talk about the opponent when we come back. But we're glad you're with us here on the Unity Lions Football Coaches Show. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Michelle Roll, and I'm the Director of Admissions for Unity Christian School. I want to introduce you to the new Georgia Promise Scholarship. The Georgia Promise Scholarship is a new scholarship offered by the state of Georgia for families who live within the attendance zone of a low-performing school. The purpose of this scholarship is for families to enroll their children in exceptional educational programs through non-public schooling of their choice. Unity Christian School is one of those private schools that have been approved to offer this scholarship. It has been wonderful to see so many families who have wanted a Christian education for their children that they now have the opportunity to enroll here at UCS. If your child is currently attending public school or entering kindergarten for the first time, and you live within one of the approved attendance zones of a low-performing school by the state of Georgia, I encourage you to apply for the Georgia Promise Scholarship at mygeorgiapromise.org. And your child could receive a scholarship of up to $6,500 to go towards school tuition every year until they graduate from high school. This is a wonderful opportunity that is allowing families to finally have the freedom to choose which school their child attends. A private Christian education may now be within your reach. Please visit their website today and see if you qualify for the Georgia Promise Scholarship.
And we welcome you back for one more segment here of the Unity Christian School Lions Coaches Football Show. And, of course, we are glad to have the head coach of the Lions with us, Coach David Humphreys. And we're going to talk about your opponent. Before we do that, though, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about extra points and field goals. I forgot to bring that up in our last segment. So let's cover that.
Man, it's funny. We started last year about mid-season. Isaiah Giddens kept on me about wanting to kick him, and we did. And because we were always going for two. And to be honest with you, we were struggling last year going for two. And I went back after you mentioned it. I looked back at my stats, and I think he's kicked 49. I think we've attempted 60. Not all of them was the misses were his fault, but it's just been a huge blessing knowing that we can line up and get those points. Last year, I think he actually kicked, and I may get this wrong, but I believe he kicked a 42-yard field goal last year, if I'm not mistaken. The kid's got a really strong leg, and if we play focused a little bit more and let him have more time at practice working on that, the sky's the limit for him. But as his leg has matured, we mentioned that his kickoffs we were getting some touchbacks, and that just alludes to the strength that he has as far as field goals.
That's tremendous. So moving on to talk about your opponent, of course, here in the semifinals, you guys had a bye from the first round, which is the quarterfinals. You're playing Harvester Chritian Academy Hawks, and the Hawks picked up a close victory over Community Christian there in that quarterfinal round. Posted a solid 7-4 record. They've enjoyed some really successful games this year. You guys had a lot of success against them earlier in the season, but you mentioned some difficulties you had in that matchup and that sort of thing. And they always say that a lot of challenges come with facing the same team twice in a year. Yeah. So what does that look like, Coach?
Well, the first time we played them, I think I touched on this. They returned the opening kickoff on us, and then we turned right around and scored on them on the first play. I think Tyler Ford rushed for like 68 yards for a touchdown. But then they went on like 12, 14 play a drive on us. And I will say this, that my linebacker, we were calling the strength the wrong direction. And they were taking advantage of that, and we had some guys out of position. Once we got it settled down and it smoothed out, then things settled down for us. They got a quarterback that is very dangerous. He's very elusive. We struggled at times tackling him. 3 weeks ago? They've got a running back 44 who is kind of one of their go-to guys. They put him all over the field. They like throwing the ball to him. They'll hand off. He's a bigger guy. He's not like the quarterback that can really run, but he's a handful. We struggled with him a little bit last time because we were tackling him too high, and so we've got to get down there on those thighs and all that. So they're also going to be a team that's going to give us a lot of formations. We were talking about Dreo Sawyer and how he's got to be ready to recognize all these formations, because in our game, numbers really don't matter. So you can't look at a kid's number, know he's eligible or not. You got to know, is he on the line or off the line? Is he covered, uncovered, or whatever? And so we've worked really for 2 weeks identifying, and we always have, a talking defense is a good defense. If you see a defense that don't talk, they don't know what they're doing. And so our guys have really done a great job of trying to keep each other informed on who's eligible, who's not. And it's going to be a huge job for us tomorrow night for sure. Of
course, playing tomorrow night at Coosa High School at Branch Bragg Field.
Right.
And, one of the things, I know that's been a great partnership for you.
Wow.
And y'all have had a lot of success over the last few years. So in terms of fan support and that sort of thing, what's the environment now?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, it seems like each week I've been asking Russ, the attendance is going up. Mm-hmm. The atmosphere is just unbelievable. And I've got to mention, Joey Mathis, Jamie Alcorn, Dr. White, for their relationship or partnership that we have with them, allowing us to rent that field and everything. It's just been unbelievable. And I know our kids love playing there, and our opponents do too. I mean, they just come and brag about the facility. We expect a huge crowd tomorrow night, getting all of our students and everything there. And, the thing about it is this will be the last home game for our seniors. And, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, about how fast, 4 years ago, you were thinking you had tomorrow. And now, so we look up and Mars are running out. So we want to make sure that we make it special for those seniors.
Well, Coach, as you get ready for this opponent and try to punch your ticket to another state championship opportunity in the following week, What would you say are the keys to success in this game and what you've been trying to drive home to your squad this week as you prepare?
Well, I think the main thing is that we can't get too tied up about any one play. We got to realize that there's other plays until there's not any other plays. And we can't get too high. We can't get too low. We got to realize that this team, Harvester being, is there for a reason, that they've been there because they've won ball games and they know how to score and so for us to think that they're not going to come out and give us their best effort would be ridiculous to think. And then I think the big E is turnovers. If we can eliminate those, which we've done a fairly good job this year, that was the thing to me that in our first meeting that we got a couple of turnovers on them kind of back to back. And, it kind of breaks your back whenever you have that. I mean, Brady King had a scoop and score of like 80 yards when they were driving. And, of course, that was a huge momentum changer for us at that point in time. So, that and just, it was really funny. Monday is kind of our insertion day, and I was looking at doing some different things. And I finally just said, no, we're going to do what we do. We ain't worried about nothing else other than just doing what we do. So I think our guys are bought into that, and they know that if we play like we know how to play, we'll be okay.
Well, Coach, as we wind down our conversation, of course, I know your football success that you've had over the years, coaching at different levels, experience, all that kind of stuff, and your passion for football is very important to your role in this program. But you are also, the area director of the FCA, and so your faith plays a massive role,
sure,
in that as well.
Sure.
So what does it mean to you to be the head football coach at Unity, and what's the biggest thing that you hope that these young men get from the experience of playing with your program?
Well, I think, first of all, Matt, I appreciate the question for sure. It's a huge blessing to be involved with this program. Football is extremely relative. And what I mean by that is it don't matter what level. I've been fortunate to coach at a lot of different levels. And each level, coaching is the same. You hold people accountable. You paint a picture for them, and then you help them get there. That's what you want to do. And with us, the one thing that we get to do, and of course I've done it even before I came to Unity, but, Jesus Christ is a huge part of who I am. And, I'm going to show them that we can go out and we can be physical on the football field and we can compete as hard as anybody. And at the same time, we can glorify the Lord by our actions and the way we work. He wants us to take those abilities that he's given us. And we realize that not everybody, and Matt, that not everybody is blessed to run, to jump, to have the mental capacity to remember. I mean, I've got a younger daughter that can't do any of that stuff. And so I thank him each and every day when I see those young people and realize, that God has blessed them with talents. And I want them to use those talents to the very best of their ability. And at the end of the day, know that there is no excuse and that we should always be looking forward and wanting to be a light in a very dark world. And if they walk out of there feeling that way, then so be it.
Well, that's awesome. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up today. And I will say this, best of luck to you and the Unity Lions coming up this weekend. And we certainly urge everybody that's watching this.
Yeah,
of course, they may be watching as the pregame. By that point, it may be too late to get over there. But if you're watching this on Thursday afternoon, we certainly would urge you to make your plans to be at the game tomorrow. Support the kids.
Thank you, Matt.
Coosa High School.
Coosa High School, 7:30.
That's right. Unity Christian Lions taking on the Harvester Chritian Academy Hawks. And for a semifinal game, an opportunity to play for a championship next weekend.
That's right.
All right. Best of luck to you guys. Thank you for your time, Coach. It's been a pleasure to talk
to you.
Thank you. It's going to wrap up the Unity Lions Football Coaches Show with head coach David Humphreys. And with that said, go Lions. So long, everybody.
Thank you for watching this edition of Unity Lions Football Coaches Show with Coach David Humphreys, presented by Unity Christian School and produced by WLAQ Sports. Go Lions!